Hey everyone, Gordon here with PC World, and I am here with our GPU and gaming expert, Brad Charkis.
Expert, thanks.
And I want to ask him this question that has just been bugging me this whole week, and that is G-Sync worth it anymore?
That's a good question, actually, because earlier this year, after years of saying they would never support FreeSync, NVIDIA rolled out support for FreeSync monitors. Technically, VESA adaptive sync monitors. In reality, NVIDIA supports FreeSync now.
Yes, with this mode they call G-Sync compatible.
Yep.
And the reason why this does bug me is I didn't realize this, but NVIDIA has a huge list, well, not huge, 40 of the 700 monitors that they support with G-Sync compatible.
Yep.
And they listed the variable refresh rate of those panels. And a lot of those panels were 50 hertz. Like basically they had a 50 to maybe 100 hertz and very, very narrow variable refresh rate. And of course, you look at G-Sync monitors, they go all the way to 0, right? Or 1, but...
So that's actually one of the key selling points of G-Sync. People like to act and think like G-Sync and FreeSync are basically two sides of the same coin. They do have the same underlying goal. They both basically synchronize the graphics card's refresh rate with your monitor's refresh rate to make it buttery smooth. It's awesome. Once you've used a variable refresh rate monitor, it's real hard to go back because it just gets rid of stuttering, it gets rid of tearing. It's great. But there are some key differences, supported refresh rate being one of them. FreeSync monitors, AMD FreeSync monitors, are kind of a wild west. Basically, any monitor maker can say, hey, we're putting in FreeSync. It's not ruled with an iron fist by AMD. So you'll see a lot of FreeSync monitors that have that limited refresh rate range. So you'll see a listing that says, okay, this monitor supports FreeSync or variable refresh rate from 50 to 75 hertz. So what that means is if you're playing a game and your frame rate falls into 50 to 75 hertz, then you'll get the benefits of adaptive sync. But if it falls outside of there, it'll revert to VSync behavior or just be stuttering if you go under. G-Sync works all the way across the board. So G-Sync is always going to give you that buttery smooth gaming. G-Sync, even if you get down to 20 frames per second, which is probably a scenario where you're going to want buttery smoothness as much as possible. Another big consideration is FreeSync monitors have something called low frame rate compensation, LFC, which is exactly what we're talking about right now. So if it gets too low, they'll kind of like double up the images to make it as smooth as possible, the frames. But that's an optional feature. It's standard in pricier FreeSync 2 monitors, but in just FreeSync, it's optional. Monitor manufacturers don't have to support it. It's part of G-Sync.
Is there any way you can tell, though? Like if I go to the store or website and I just see a monitor and it says adaptive sync or FreeSync, is there any way to know what that
It's not easy. AMD has a FreeSync page on its website. Like if you look up AMD FreeSync monitors, and it'll have the specs of all the FreeSync monitors that it's certified. So it'll tell you on there what the supported range is. Monitor makers don't tend to, unless it's a really high-end monitor that is fully loaded, that has low frame rate compensation, that has anti-ghosting, that has big refresh rate, because they don't want you to know that it only supports variable refresh rate over like 20 frames. They want you to just buy it and say, oh, it has FreeSync. G-Sync monitors have hardware inside of it to make this whole experience happen. And it's not cheap. It's $100 to $200 depending on the monitor. But it just works out of the box.
So it sounds like it's worth it then.
It's up to you, because if you have a GeForce card and you want to use a FreeSync monitor, there are a handful of monitors that NVIDIA is certified as being G-Sync compatible. And those will work right out of the box. You don't have to do anything. It's actually updated in the drivers. You plug in the monitor, GeForce driver sees it, goes, oh, hey, that one's G-Sync compatible. It works. There's, like you said, like 20 out of like 700 monitors or something like that, FreeSync monitors. So it's not many, but if you do, it works. Otherwise, you have to go into the control center, manually enable it. I have an article on PCWorld.com how to enable FreeSync on a GeForce card if you need to go look that up. But that's the extent of it. NVIDIA doesn't support really FreeSync in any way. They're like, yeah, we turned that on. Knock yourself out if you want.
Right.
They want you to buy a G-Sync monitor. I guess it depends on if you want that smoother guaranteed out-of-the-box experience, or if you want to put a little bit more legwork in to make sure that you're getting a good FreeSync monitor. It just takes a little bit more work on your end as a user doing some research up front.
Is there an advantage either of them has as far as ports go? Does one have more ports or fewer ports?
There is. It doesn't matter for NVIDIA users because if you're using a GeForce card, the only option for G-Sync or FreeSync is DisplayPort. That's what this all started from. That's all NVIDIA still supports. AMD did a lot of work to get FreeSync working over HDMI as well. That doesn't matter to G-Sync compatible monitors with GeForce cards because only Radeon cards support FreeSync over HDMI.
Okay.
But that is good to know. That is useful because one of the benefits of FreeSync is that there are a lot of more affordable monitors. I think that's the question here, right? Is it worth it? So if you get like $100 to $200 FreeSync monitor, it's probably only going to have HDMI. It might not have DisplayPort. So in that case, you would want a Radeon card.
And the very last question I have is, of course, to get to is it worth it? We already know your opinions, pluses and minuses versus FreeSync Adaptive Sync.
Mm-hmm.
But what if I have an old, funky 1080p panel?
Mm-hmm.
Is it worth it to do an upgrade? Say I am a GeForce user. If I want to buy a new monitor, is it versus a free G-Sync versus non G-Sync?
To me, these days you should, if you're a gamer, always try to get an adaptive sync monitor. If you can afford G-Sync and you're willing to spend that much money to get it, it's a great out-of-the-box experience. It works. If you can't afford G-Sync, you can put the legwork in, go on that AMD website, find a monitor that has a good refresh range, still get a FreeSync monitor and enable it through the control panel. It's a lot more work, but once you've gone adaptive sync, you can't go back. It's such a transcendent gaming experience.
So yes, it is worth it, definitely. So, anyway, that's Brad's opinion. Come back here. We love talking about this stuff on the Full Nerd. You can watch the stream live, add a comment, we'll respond here.